Definitely the toughest video I've had to make to date. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Out Cold Ox Show. My name is Michael and I'm the Ox. As promised, I am here to tell you my story regarding the day of the Humboldt Broncos bus crash. I'm going to have to separate it into two parts, so this is part one. Here we go. April 6th, 2018 didn't seem like any kind of special day. I remember it was a nice day, little sun, little clouds. It was warm though, it was nice. I was working the afternoon/evening shift at the long-term care facility where I worked as a nurse. I was well into my shift. I had just finished prepping my supper time medications and went outside for coffee break. It was around 4:45. Whenever I went on coffee break, I always went to my car, plugged my phone in, listened to music. The strangest thing happened. I didn't think much of it at the time, but it stuck with me. I was listening to music and all of a sudden my left ear started to ring, and it only took a few seconds to come to a point where I couldn't hear anything out of it at all. Now, it probably was nothing, completely random. Could have been just change in air pressure or whatever. But the timing was curious about it because it happened roughly around the time that the bus crashed. At the time, it meant really nothing. I didn't think twice about it, really. Later on, though, just kind of, being a lover of the paranormal, if everything is energy, I'm guessing in that moment of the crash, there was a large amount of energy dispersed. Could have been something, could have been nothing, could have been random. It's above my pay grade. Moving forward with the story. I went back in, finished up my supper time meds. Along came my supper time break. So I headed back out to my car. As I mentioned, usually I plug in my phone and listen to music. But rather than plugging in my phone, I started listening to the radio and immediately heard the news bulletin, something to the effect of, it's been confirmed that the Humboldt Broncos bus was hit by a semi, and there are 3 confirmed dead. I honestly couldn't even tell you what I was feeling in that moment. It definitely had to be some kind of shock. Immediately I started doing the numbers in my head, knowing roughly how many would have been on that bus, and started thinking, okay, three out of however many, that's pretty good odds. Immediately after that thought, I realized I got to call my folks, find out if they know about this or anything about it. I called my father and he answered pretty quickly. I said, "Dad, what's going on?" And his response was something like, "We're not too sure, but it's not looking good." I'm not too sure how the rest of the conversation went. As I said, I was in shock. All I remember is I went back in to work and continued working for a little bit. I was just in shock and really unsure of what I should be doing. So at that point, I realized, okay, this probably isn't good for me to be working right now. I need to make a phone call and get someone to come take over for me, and so I did. During that phone call, I was told, just don't do anything. Don't do anything else at all. Just go chill out in the office. And so that's what I did. I remember just sitting there staring at the door and just trying to figure out what my next move was. Just wanting to know that my brother was okay. I honestly don't know how long it took till the on-call nurse got there. But during that time, I had actually received a text from someone saying that their daughter had received news of some sort saying that my brother had been seen walking around and that he's probably okay. So I started going with that information in my head and thinking, okay, why haven't I heard from him? Not that I would have been tops of the list for him to get a hold of right away. But like, why hadn't I heard from him or anyone else regarding how he's doing? It was at that point when my mind went into what I call nursing brain. And for me, nursing brain is when you drop all of the emotion, get calm, and basically just go to business. Essentially, my mindset was, okay, there's nothing to worry about until there's something to worry about. So with the on-call nurse there, now I went home and I waited for some news. It was at this point when a family friend showed up at our door. My parents had called him and sent him to basically look after me. A little bit demeaning, but at the same time, it was good of him to do. And I understand why my parents would have been worried about me. But me, still being in nursing brain, said, no, it's okay. I'm fine. There's no reason for you to hang around. It's all right. I'm good. And I sent him away. I remember getting a phone call from Molly's brother, Owen. He was calling to see if I had any news. I guess they were traveling to Saskatoon. I didn't know anything, but I guess I said I'd call back if I had news. And then immediately after that, I called my dad again, and still no news regarding my brother. I don't remember how long I waited, but God, waiting was the worst part. During my last phone call to my father, I remember it was still light out, and I'd gone back inside, and it was at this point I actually started to get worried because I hadn't heard anything yet. I remember being in the living room, and I don't know what compelled me to do it. I guess just kind of me being lost without any kind of answers. I'm not a religious person. I don't know why I did it, but I literally got down on my knees and I started praying. Not in the conventional sense, for sure. At the time, it was pretty much me threatening God, begging, essentially saying, he better be okay or you and I are going to have a real talk. Who does that? It wasn't long after that I couldn't wait anymore. I needed to do something, and my thought process was, okay, I haven't heard from him, so obviously he's injured at best, and so he's either going to Saskatoon or he's going to either Tisdale or maybe Nipawin Hospital. And so I got in my car and I started driving. But at this point, I'm still thinking, nothing to worry about until there's something to worry about. I was heading up Highway 20, and I was just approaching Highway 16 near Lanigan there. It was at this point I knew I had to decide, okay, am I going left to Saskatoon or am I going right to head up towards Tisdale, Nipawin, and all that. And so I decided, okay, I gotta give my dad another call and find out if there's any news about where Mark is. My dad answered the phone. I said, okay, which way am I going? Am I going Saskatoon or am I going coming up the way you guys are? And my dad's reply was, no, don't worry, you should head home. And I said, well, what do you mean? And it was at that point he said he didn't make it. Still in nursing brain, I just slowed the car down and said, okay. I slowed the car down and pulled a U-turn, and everything was purely mechanical at this point. I remember thinking, okay, I can't think about this right now. I'm driving. I need to be aware of what I'm doing. I need to get home safely. I don't need my parents worrying about another son here. I drove home in silence. I don't really remember much about it. I remember pulling into Strasbourg, turning up Main Street, and honestly, the next thing I knew was I was parked in front of the hotel at the end of Main Street there, and I was going inside to buy alcohol. I went in. I remember I was basically looking at the floor. I looked up and saw some people at some of the tables. I don't even remember faces. I don't know if I recognize them or not. But I purchased my alcohol, and at that point I got a phone call from my uncle looking to see if there was any new information, and I just stunned. I just said no. Mark didn't make it, and I honestly I don't remember the rest of the conversation, which couldn't have been more than 30 seconds, I think. I don't know. I don't remember hanging up. I remember taking my beer and going back up to my car and feeling like I just wanted to get away. I just wanted to drive somewhere and be alone. But I realized this is not a good time to be worrying my folks. I drove home. As I pulled up to the house, my mom called, make sure I got home. And she said that family friend who had stopped by earlier was going to come over again. She said that there was a bunch of family who was going to be showing up, and asked me if I could clean up the kitchen a little bit. So I went inside, started drinking. The whole kitchen thing was actually a good idea. It kept me busy. I started doing dishes when the family friend showed up, and he actually gave me a hand. And my dad called and asked me if I had talked to Leah, and I said I hadn't, and he said I probably should give her a shout. And I called Leah. We had a bit of a chat. I honestly don't remember the conversation. Finished doing the dishes. The family friend and I, we went and just sat in the living room, watched TV. I continued to drink, not caring what anyone thought about it. And we just chatted a little bit. I was obviously still in shock quite a bit. Things I would say, I would joke about my brother, and like I hadn't cried at all. I remember the family friend actually saying he was surprised at how well I was taking it. I wasn't taking it well. My mental condition at that point was shock and nursing brain. Gotta be strong, right? You know, like people are gonna be really sad, and it's my responsibility to make sure they're okay. Time frames for everything during this night, I don't know how long things took or whatever, but family started showing up at some point. Just remember that terrible, awkward time of like opening the door for each guest who came in, and just how sad, and that terrible look of like, oh, you know, that terrible pity look of like, oh, I feel terrible for you, and me just giving that whole, you know, like, gosh darn this event that's going on look on my face. And I just didn't have it in me to show emotion at this time. My thought process was I just needed to be strong. I needed to make sure others were okay. My folks eventually got back at some point, which was nice because the attention was taken away from me, because all I wanted to do was disappear. I wanted to be gone. I wanted to be anywhere else but there. Normally I wouldn't drink in front of family. Well, certain family. I just didn't care. I felt I was justified. Anyway, at some point we got everybody squared away. I went up to my room and continued to drink for a while, but I honestly don't remember much about the rest of that night. I just knew that the next morning we had to go to Saskatoon to identify my brother. So that's part one. Part two will be about the next morning. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you checking out my video. Stay tuned because I'm going to be dropping part two right away here. So get out there and live like someone left the gate open.